It was one of those nights that felt like everything was wrong. The kind of storm you feel in your bones before it even hits. I was on the Catherine, a freighter making its way through the North Sea. The crew was on edge with the sky darkening earlier than usual and the wind picking up faster than predicted. The storm was coming, and there was no avoiding it. We tried to keep everything secure and continue our work, but the waves were growing, and the air felt charged, like the sea itself was bracing for something. Around 2 a.m., the storm hit full force, rain coming down in sheets, lightning flashing so violently it felt like the ship was shaking with every strike. I was on the bridge with the captain, both of us doing our best to keep the ship steady while trying to navigate through the increasingly violent sea. The storm was so loud it was like the world had narrowed down to just the sound of wind and waves. But in the midst of it all, I saw something strange. I thought it was just the storm playing tricks on me. I'd seen flashes of light from lightning, but this was different. There was a faint blue glow beneath the water, flickering in the depths, like a light from something just below the surface. It wasn't coming from above, not from the sky or the storm. It was coming from the ocean itself. I stared at it, trying to make sense of what I was seeing, but the waves were so high, it was hard to gauge the distance. The glow moved, shifting beneath the surface like it was following the currents. It wasn't consistent like a light from a ship. It seemed to pulse, flickering every few seconds, almost as if it was alive. I grabbed the radio and called the captain. "You see that? There's something glowing down there." He didn't answer right away. I could hear the strain in his voice when he finally responded. "I see it. Keep your eyes on it. It's not a ship. It's too far out, too deep." I didn't know what to make of it. The glow was too bright to be natural, too distinct to be a trick of the storm or lightning. It looked like something alive, something deep beneath the surface, waiting to surface. We tried to keep the ship steady, but I couldn't stop watching the light. It shifted like it was moving in slow motion, undulating beneath the waves. At one point, it seemed to rise slightly, just enough that I could see its outline. It wasn't just a single glow, it was a shape, something massive, like a long, curved form undulating in the water. The light pulsed in rhythm with the movement, like some creature breathing, its light flickering as it moved. The captain ordered us to steer the ship in another direction, away from the glow. But as we turned, the light followed, shifting in a way that seemed intentional, like it was tracking us. Every time the ship turned, it shifted too, always staying within the periphery of our vision. The waves and rain intensified, but no matter how hard we tried to shake it off, the light stayed. Then there was a loud guttural sound, a deep rumbling vibration that came from beneath the ship. The entire vessel shuddered, and we wondered if something had collided with us. I looked over the side, half expecting to see something massive rise from the water, but there was nothing. The sea was a churning mess, but the glow had vanished, just as suddenly as it had appeared. The light disappeared into the deep, leaving nothing behind but the storm and the crashing waves. We spent hours scanning the water, hoping to catch another glimpse of it, but there was nothing, no trace, no sign of what we'd seen. The storm passed and the morning came with no indication of anything unusual in the water. But I knew what I saw. The captain and I never spoke about it again, but the crew knew something had happened. It was too strange to just ignore. Some of them said it could have been a fishing vessel's lights through the storm, but the glow was wrong. It wasn't a light you'd find on any boat. Others thought it might have been bioluminescent creatures in the water, but that didn't explain the shape, the size, or the way it seemed to follow us. The truth is, we'll never know what that was. Maybe it was a trick of the storm. Maybe it was some strange deep-sea phenomenon. But I've never been able to shake the feeling that we saw something down there. Something hiding in the deep, glowing just beneath the waves. And I don't think it's ever really gone away. It was supposed to be a routine dive. I'd been scuba diving for years and had explored some of the most beautiful coral reefs off the coast of Fiji. This particular day, I was diving solo, just me and the ocean, enjoying the quiet under the surface. The sun was high, casting beams of light through the clear blue water, illuminating the colorful fish and vibrant coral below. I dove deeper, heading towards a remote part of the reef where not many tourists go. It was known for its untouched beauty, and I was hoping to spot something rare. The deeper I went, the quieter it got. No more fish darting around, no more bubbles rising from the surface, just the sound of my breathing and the occasional distant crackle of the coral. I reached about 80 feet, and as I hovered above a bed of colorful anemones, I saw something moving in the distance. As I swam closer, I saw that it wasn't a fish. It was something larger. The shape was strange, almost human-like, but stretched and contorted in an unnatural way. It was about the size of a person, but its limbs were far too long, its body unnervingly thin. The water around it seemed darker, and it moved with a jerky, unnatural motion, almost as if it were floating in a way that didn't seem possible for anything in the ocean. I wasn't sure what I was looking at. My first thought was to swim back up to the surface, but something held me there. Maybe just the eerie fascination of seeing something so strange. The figure didn't notice me at first, continuing to drift along the seafloor. As I moved closer, the shape turned toward me. There were no eyes, just smooth, pale skin stretched over what could have been a face, but it was more like a featureless mask. And then I saw the most disturbing detail, a large black hole in its chest where a heart should have been. It wasn't like any wound I'd seen before. It was as if the creature didn't need a heart, or any internal organs for that matter. I should have turned and swum back to the surface right then, but I couldn't tear myself away. I was too close. As I watched, the figure seemed to move toward the deep, diving into the abyss where the sunlight couldn't reach. It was like it wanted me to follow. I finally snapped out of my trance and began swimming back toward the reef, my breath coming faster. But as I did, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. The water around me felt different now, heavier, darker. The current had shifted, and something about the deep felt wrong, like I was no longer alone in that vast expanse of ocean. I quickly ascended, reaching the surface in what felt like a panic-driven sprint. When I broke through the water, I took in a deep breath, shaking uncontrollably. The sea was calm above, as if nothing had happened. I never told anyone about what I saw. I don't know what it was. I've dove in that spot several times since, but I never ventured down that deep again. And I never saw anything like it again. But every time I go diving, I can't shake the feeling that there's something down there in the deep that's watching. It's not the beauty of the coral that haunts me now. It's the darkness that lies beneath it. I've been a fisherman for most of my life, but there's one night I will never forget. We were in the middle of the Pacific, about 50 miles from the nearest land, when we ran into something that I still can't explain. It was late at night, and we were out there alone on a small, 30-foot boat, just trying to get a catch in before the storm hit. The sea was calm, and the moon cast a pale silver glow over the water. Everything seemed fine until we heard a strange noise. It was like something hitting the boat from below. I turned to the crew. "Did anyone feel that?" I asked. They all looked confused, but before anyone could answer, the noise came again, louder this time. It was a dull thump, almost like something heavy bumping the boat, not the erratic knock of driftwood or the scrape of a fish. This was deliberate, like we were being pushed. I grabbed a flashlight and leaned over the side, scanning the dark water, but I couldn't see anything unusual. Then the boat lurched hard to one side. One of the guys nearly lost his balance, grabbing onto the railing just in time. "What the hell was that?" someone shouted. I didn't know what to say. The water churned beside us, and then something broke the surface. It was massive, a slimy, dark shape that seemed to glisten in the moonlight. The creature was the size of a small truck, with long, tentacle-like appendages that slithered just above the water. It was a mottled green color, with patches of black along its slick skin. It lingered above the water for only a couple of seconds, just long enough for us to freeze in shock. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, it slid back beneath the surface. We thought it was gone, but then we saw its shape again, just barely visible beneath the dark water. It would drift away from the boat, only to reappear moments later, closer than before. Once I caught a glimpse of those tentacle-like limbs unfurling just inches from the hull before vanishing again. The creature moved with an eerie calmness, as if it knew we were helpless. For several minutes, it continued this unsettling game, vanishing, reappearing, each time seeming to study us from the shadows. Then, without warning, it was gone. I've seen plenty of strange creatures in the ocean, but nothing like this. "We need to get out of here," one of the crew whispered, his voice shaking. We didn't stick around to find out more. We hauled the anchor in and hightailed it back to shore as fast as we could. We didn't stop until we reached the nearest harbor. None of us spoke for the entire trip back. Even after we docked, no one mentioned what we'd seen. It was like we all silently agreed to forget it ever happened. There's no way we'll be going out that far again, and none of us ever spoke of it again after we got back. But I know what I saw, and there's something down there that doesn't belong in the deep.